Hey everybody, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, your source for Second Amendment news. Yesterday the news came out about the injunction, I guess, or the stay of the 3D printing case against Cody Wilson and Defense Distributed here in Massachusetts. The Attorney General thought that she should go out and tell everybody that it's illegal to 3D print a gun and to build your own gun, and she's actually 100% wrong. Because it's legal, cars, they always go by when I'm on recording this, it's amazing. But it's 100% legal to build your gun. It always has been, as long as you have the requisite amount of metal in it. And I don't see them changing that on the short note, but they'll probably try to change that now. But I have the letter, actually, that was penned by my Attorney General here in Massachusetts, Maura Healey, who is a tyrant and just a piece of work. For those of you who live in the state, the Jay McMahon interview is uploading right now. And then once it's uploaded, I'm going to sleep. So you guys and gals can watch that while I'm crashing. I've been up for over 2 days. So I'm going to read this letter real quick, and then I'll tell you all 21 attorneys general that signed this. So this was dated July 30th, 2018. And this was sent to Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, and Jeff Sessions, the U.S. Attorney General. And this was penned, again, like I said, by Maura Healey of Massachusetts, that clown. And it goes something like this. Dear Secretary Pompeo and Attorney General Sessions, we, the undersigned Attorneys General, write to express our serious concern about the Department of State's settlement with Defense Distributed and the proposed rules 83 Federal Regulations 24198 and 83 Federal Regulations 24166. Published by the Department of State and the Department of Commerce to amend the International Trafficking in Arms Regulations. As the chief law enforcement officers of our states, all right, soapbox time. If you're going to be a law enforcement officer, you should actually have experience in enforcing the law. You're an attorney, you're a clown, you're a liberal, and you're a joke. You're a Marxist. I'll continue. As the quote-unquote chief law enforcement officers of our states, we believe the settlement terms and proposed rules are deeply dangerous and could have an unprecedented impact on public safety. In addition to helping armed terrorists and transitional criminals, the settlement and proposed rules would provide another path to gun ownership for people who are prohibited by federal and state law from possessing firearms. The criminal's going to get them anyway, sweetie. They're just going to. Federal courts have recognized the danger of allowing these guns to be publicly available on the internet, and this administration has abruptly disregarded those rulings. We urge you to withdraw from the settlement and withdraw the proposed rules immediately, and allow full and fair consideration of any future proposed rules on these issues. Now, before I continue, my state paid for this. This was penned by Maura Healey. So this is my tax money that should be sent to fix the pothole in front of my house. Instead, it's being sent to her efforts to be a tyrant in Washington, D.C. You can see where her goals are right now. I'll continue as the truck goes by now. I swear, this town is beautiful and quiet until I'm recording. We believe the settlement and proposed rules will facilitate violations of federal and state laws and will make Americans less safe from both domestic and international threats. You guys are the domestic threat. For example, individuals who access these files posted by Defense Distributed and similar files posted by others in the future, and use of those files will be circumventing laws that regulate the manufacture, sale, transfer, possession, and export of firearms. The Arms Export Control Act requires the federal government to reduce the international trade in and lessen the burden of our arms abroad. Domestically, many of our states have carefully crafted regulatory regimes geared at preventing gun violence and protecting public safety. The Department of State's abrupt change in this position seriously undermines the efficacy of those laws and creates an imminent risk to public safety. No, it doesn't. And there was a letter that went around the state yesterday and was signed by a whole bunch of the left-leaning police chiefs in the state too. So the next paragraph, as a result of the Department of State's settlement with Defense Distributed, terrorists, criminals, and individuals seeking to do harm would have unfettered access to print and manufacture dangerous firearms. You don't think they build guns already? You ever been on the street, Mara? No, because you weren't a cop, but you're a law enforcement officer. Zip guns, pretty easy to make. Some of these weapons may even be undetectable by magnetometers in places like airports and government buildings and untraceable by law enforcement. Illegal trafficking of these guns across state lines and national borders could also increase, and self-made, unregistered, and untraceable firearms could easily wind up in the hands of or simply be produced directly by dangerous individuals. So this whole thing is a what if. All right, what if this could happen? What if? What if we just follow the damn laws? What if we enforce the laws that are there? What if we just follow the Constitution? Imagine that. The proposed rules would also transfer oversight of certain weapons and ammunition which have long been considered military grade, wrong again, Mara, and are currently on the United States munitions list from the Department of State to the Department of Commerce. The settlement and proposed rules would facilitate the upload of files and other information sufficient to build unsafe and untraceable guns on the internet. Mailman's here now. It just never stops. There would be unrestricted access domestically and abroad to large amounts of technical data that had previously been regulated and to promote serious national security interests. Do you really think that this information wasn't available before today, or before Cody Wilson put this stuff out there? Like, you don't think people put a gun inside of a machine and took its measurements and made, you know, other guns? Like, you don't think you can make an AK-47 out of a shovel? Like, we just began the manufacturing age was this week. We agree with the argument that the Department of Justice and Department of State asserted for years that in the lawsuit brought by Defense Distributed before this abrupt reversal, that the release of these computer files of firearms would threaten national security and put our residents in danger. Well, the files have been out for a long time. You're just finding out about it. For example, the Department of Justice wrote in its brief to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, quote, "The computer data files at issue here, if made publicly available without restriction, would allow anyone with a 3D printer or relative device to create at the touch of a button parts and components of an operational firearm, that is untraceable and undetectable by metal detectors, because such printers are readily available. Allowing the distribution of the computer files at issue here is tantamount to permitting the dissemination of firearms themselves. The settlement and the related proposed rules are inconsistent with the government's long-standing position and recklessly disregarding public safety and security. These rules, if finalized, and the settlement, if implemented, set a precedent that would endanger the lives of civilians, law enforcement, and members of the armed forces at home and abroad. We urge you to withdraw from the settlement immediately. The status quo, which currently ensures public safety and national security by prohibiting publication of firearm design files on the internet, should be maintained. So we want to get rid of the First Amendment so that we can get rid of the Second Amendment. Did you just hear that plain and easy? Any rulemaking on these issues should not be tied to a specific settlement agreement and should be subject to the full and fair rulemaking proceedings so that all stakeholders may provide input into the rules in the interest of public safety. So that whole letter is basically saying, I'll surmise it, that our feelings mean more and should circumvent the Constitution. That's exactly what it means. Now, I'll read you the 21 dopes who signed this, okay? Because chances are 50% chance they're one of yours. Maura Healey, Massachusetts. Xavier Becerra, California. A lot of these are going to be shockers, I know. Cynthia Kaufman, Colorado. George Jespin, Connecticut. Matthew Den, Delaware. Carl Racine, District of Columbia. Russell Suzuki, Hawaii. Lisa Madigan, Illinois. Thomas J. Miller, Iowa. Janet T. Mills, Maine. Brian E. Frosch, Maryland. Lori Swanson, Minnesota. It's always the same ones. Gubir Grawal, New Jersey. Hector Balderas, New Mexico. Barbara Underwood, New York. Ellen Rosenblum, Oregon. Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania. Peter Kilmartin, Rhode Island. Thomas Donovan Jr., Vermont. Mark Herring, Virginia. And Bob Ferguson, Washington. Those are the attorneys general who are pulling out all the stops to step on the First Amendment in order to destroy the Second Amendment. So there's the list. I've gotten a lot of messages, a lot of comments on my previous videos on who are the 21. So there they are. A quick little video. I guess it wasn't quick because it took forever to read that, but now you know who the culprits are. Now you know who you need to call, who you need to talk to. And I'm going to go check on that interview with Jay McMahon. And this letter proves, Massachusetts, how bad we need them. Okay, pass this along if you would. Until we see each other again, this is JR from Guns and Gadgets. Please join this channel if you haven't already. Be safe, stay vigilant, carry a weapon. Take care, everybody.